So now I'll just quickly convey to you like what I am personally comfortable with and how I personally manage the 2% rule and how I personally follow that. Also like how I follow the rule of R. Okay. So R is nothing else but what I'm putting at stake in any particular trade. So this R, as I mentioned to you, could be different from person to person. It could be different from different traders. For different trading styles, some of you will be finding a different R to be comfortable, but this is my personal thing. So let's assume that my trading capital is 1 lakh rupee. So if my trading capital is 1 lakh rupee, we know maximum is 2000 rupee, but let's say that I'm pretty much conservative. So if assuming my initial capital is 1 lakh rupee, I'm putting at stake only 0.5% of my capital. So what is 0.5% of 1 lakh? It is nothing else but 500 rupee. Okay. So 500 rupee is my risk size. Per trade, my risk is 500. So this is nothing else but what we refer to as the concept of R. So if I'm putting at stake 500 rupees in any particular trade, how much should I be looking forward to make? Obviously more than R. It could be a 2R, it could be a 3R, it could be even a 4R and whatnot, right? So when I'm putting at stake, it is always R. Okay, so it is always R that I put at stake. So let it be commodities, let it be index, whatever we trade, always the risk is this R. Okay, so if 1 lakh is the capital, it is 500. If 10 lakh is the capital, it is 5,000. If 1 crore is the capital, that would be 50,000. So this R remains constant. Now, let's say that I am personally feeling at any single day, I should not go beyond my maximum permissible risk. That is, let's say that I have a capital of 1 lakh. So I am personally not going to have a good night's sleep if I am losing more than 2000 rupee by trading that particular day. Now just think for yourself. I have actually kind of like my bet per trade would be an R, that is 500 rupee. And I really don't want to have open positions where I am going to risk more than 2% of my capital. Then how many trades can I have on that particular day? So at any point of time, I could have 4 running positions. That is, I could actually have 4 trades where every single trade, the risk that I have actually taken is an R. And even if all these 4 trades end up losing, I would be losing 0.5% each, and in all the 4 trades together, I would still end up losing just a 2%. I'm still comfortable with that. So I would highly recommend that if you're getting started with the market, please don't risk more than please don't have your positions running. So please make sure that your positions are not running, which could actually cost you more than 2%. Now, if you're taking a risk of like 1% per trade, you could parallelly have maybe two trades running. Now, if you are taking a risk of like 0.5% per trade, you parallelly could actually have 4 positions running. Now, these 4 positions that you have running could be based on different trading setups too. So, I always ensure that my risk is always diversified amongst different trading setups, different trading systems. So, I just wanted to conclude by saying a 2% rule is nothing else but a rule that tells you don't put at stake more than 2% of your trading capital in any particular trade. However, I personally follow this principle where I don't put more than 0.5% of my capital at stake in any particular trade. Now, many of the times, since I have multiple systems running together, I ensure that I never put at stake more than 0.5 into 4, that is nothing else but 2% overall. That is, if I have multiple running positions that is happening, so more or less the maximum amount that I can lose, even if all the 4 trades go to loss, would be 2% of my trading capital. Now, if you are comfortable with not following the 2% rule, and if you feel that okay, I am comfortable in taking a risk of only 1% per trade, then you risk 1% of your capital per trade. Now, if you feel okay 0.5%, you risk 0.5% of your capital per trade. Now, I would highly request that you don't risk more than that. Why? Because even if you are someone who feels okay, I am very comfortable with the system. So if you are just beginning in the markets, I would highly recommend don't risk more than 1%. 1% would do, but not more than that would be sufficient for a beginner to begin with. So we have learned the concept of R as well. So R is nothing else but what amount we are putting at stake. Okay. So if my initial trading capital is 1 lakh, so what I am putting at stake is 500 rupees per trade. If my initial capital is 10 lakh and 4.5% is what I am comfortable with, then 5,000 per trade is what I put at stake. That is 0.5% of my capital. So I don't follow the 2% rule, rather I am following a 0.5% rule. And altogether, if I have 4 positions running and all of them end up losing, still I have lost just 2% of my capital. Now there could be some of you who would be kind of having 6 positions running parallelly, where you would have put at stake 1% per trade. Now just realize for yourself, if all the trades are going to go against you, so 6 into 1% is what you're going to lose on your combined trading capital. That is 6% of your capital is going to be wiped out if you have 6 running positions parallelly and all the trades you had was 1% of your capital and all of them are ending up to be losing trade. But obviously, if the systems that you have followed are following are devised in such a manner that they are not correlated to each other, if you have 6 trades running, more or less 3 would be winning and 3 would be losing. Now, I hope I have been able to add some value to you by mentioning how you could actually manage your risk by following the 2% rule, the 1% rule, or as I personally follow the 0.5% rule, and I really don't put at stake 2% at any point of time in all my positions combined together. Now, this particular practice would vary person to person. Okay, so it depends on what you are personally comfortable with. So in order to understand if the risk that you are taking is comfortable for yourself, just ask this question to yourself, that if you are really afraid of holding to a trade, if you are someone who is really panicking at the time your price is approaching the stop loss, or if you are someone who loses that particular night's sleep or even that week's sleep after your stop loss has been triggered. So if the answer is yes to these questions, then obviously the answer is you have put at stake an amount that you were really not able to afford in the first place. So this amount would vary person to person. So don't compare that, okay, he is risking 10,000 in a trade, he is risking 1 lakh in a trade, so I should also be risking 1 lakh in any particular trade. No, that's not the approach. You figure out for yourself what would be the comfortable amount for yourself. So this amount would vary person to person. So as long as you don't follow something that is comfortable to you, you can't make it successful in trading for sure, because you are just going to be panicking on what to do. If your stop loss is getting hit, you might end up over trading, emotions would come in, all these hangama would happen. So please don't risk more than what you can afford to lose. So figure out for yourself what is the R that is comfortable for you, and don't compare it with anyone else. So that R is going to be set based on your convenience and your comfort level. Now let's understand how you could actually manage your risk based upon levels and quantities a bit more further. After learning the 2% rule, definitely there could be many queries that could be walking through your mind. Okay, so now let me give you a fresh example where let's assume this to be stock A. Okay, so both the scenarios, it is stock A itself, like both are the same stocks, and we see that it is finding some sort of a resistance at 100 levels. So here as well as here. Now the difference out over here is in the scenario 2, okay, so I consider this to be scenario 2 and this to be scenario 1. So in the scenario 2, what basically happens is when the price is actually facing a rejection, the consolidation happens in such a manner that your stop loss would be somewhere at 98. Okay, also 98 is the level point where we have the nearby support, and you have your stop loss somewhere out at 98. Whereas in the first scenario, your stop loss would be somewhere at 96. So even though the resistance is exactly at 100, the stop loss would be at somewhere at 96 in the first scenario. So in case number 1, your risk per share or the risk per unit is going to be 4 rupee. That is, you will have to keep a stop loss of 4 rupees per unit in case 1, and you have to keep a risk of 2 rupees per unit in case 2. Okay, so now let's say that I am someone who is trading with a capital of 1 lakh capital, and I want to put at stake just 0.5% of my capital. So how many quantities should I be trading in scenario 1 and scenario 2? Now we realize out for ourselves, in scenario number 1, we had to keep a stop loss of 4 rupee, checking out for a target of 6 rupee. And in the case of scenario number 2, we had to keep a stop loss of 2 rupee, checking out for a target of 6 rupee. So if I am comfortable in putting at stake max to max 500 rupees per trade, then I should be purchasing a maximum of 500 divided by 2, that is nothing else but 250 quantity in the first scenario. So 500 is nothing else but our predefined risk, the R amount that we spoke about. Now, if I am trading with 1 lakh capital and I am comfortable in risking just 0.5% of my capital, I have predefined that my R amount is going to be 500. So 500 divided by 2, 250 should be the maximum quantity I should be purchasing in scenario 2. Now, what about scenario 1? I realized that 4 rupees is the stop loss I had to take. Then 500 divided by 4, which is nothing else but 125 should be the quantity I should be maximum be purchasing. Now, a simple formula for this is nothing else but the quantity or the maximum quantity you should be undertaking to purchase or sell, short sell in any particular trade should be the risk amount divided by how much you had to keep as the stop loss. So, the risk amount, the R, divided by the stop loss in points that you had to take. So, that should be the quantity you should be purchasing in that particular trade. Now, let me ask you another question. So, which one do you think is a more favorable setup, scenario 2 or scenario 1? So, based on our present understanding of directional trading, so we know that just half of the trades that is going to win. So then definitely we have also kind of talked that the first point that we should keep in our mind is nothing else but we need to have a risk reward ratio of at least 1:2. So let's see that scenarios out here. So in scenario number 1, so the reward that we are looking out for, we are expecting the price from 100 to move till 106. Just an example. So 6 rupees is what we are expecting as a target. How much are we putting at risk? 4 rupees per unit. So what is our risk reward ratio in this case is nothing else but risk is 4 rupee and the reward that we are looking out for is like a 6 rupee, which is nothing else but a 2 by 3, which is nothing else but a 1:1.5. So you're risking 1 rupee in order to make 1.5 rupee. In the second scenario, we are kind of actually risking 2 rupees to make 6 rupee. So 2 rupees to make 6 rupees. So which is nothing else but a 1:3. So obviously scenario 2 looks more favorable because here we are risking 2 rupee to make 6 rupee. That is effectively you will be risking for every 1 rupee risk you will be making 3 rupee if you win. Here for every 1 rupee that you are risking, effectively you will be making 1.5 rupee. So obviously, so if you are capable of identifying two separate setups like this or two different systems like this based on a breakout opportunity on two separate stocks, it is obviously common sense that we should be more interested in this particular setup as compared to this particular setup. Why? Because here we are getting a 1:1.5, whereas here we are getting a 1:3.